Hello, everyone. This is Diane Mikowski, the massage mentor. I've been doing massage since 1996 and have not taken a paycheck from any other business besides the massage business since 1996. And today thank you, Matt. Thank you. Today I'm here with Matt Kay, and we are going to talk just a little bit about floating. I found that floating is one of the coolest things that I've done. I've been hearing about it for years amongst friends, and then when I knew that Matt came to town, I was like, wow, cutting edge coolness. There's just nothing like it in our area, Matt. So what got you into floating? Well, first, do we? How about why don't you tell us a little bit about floating?
Sure. Well, hi everybody, and Diane, thanks for the opportunity and having me on. Um, so yeah, I found out about floating for the first time when I experienced it in 2012, so almost 7 years ago at this point. I had wanted to do it, but there was really nowhere to do it in the area. So I tried when I was out in California for the first time, and I loved it. Immediately booked a session for 2 days afterwards, and then from there knew I was either gonna, get something like this for my house or start up a business. And so to talk a little bit more about what floating is for anybody that might be unfamiliar, because it is still, like, I would say, somewhat under the radar in general. It's definitely continues to become more and more popular. Especially compared to 5 years ago when we first established our first location here in the Philadelphia suburbs in Westchester, right near you guys. Uh,
I'm so
it's
excited.
yeah, it's awesome. It's one of those things that it's becoming more popular because it's almost undeniable in terms of the physical and mental benefits that it has. So it literally is floating. So you are floating in water. It's kind of like you're in the Dead Sea. So it's a holistic health therapy for your mind and body. Where if you want to try to visualize it, what I usually describe, and I'm going to describe what we use, and different businesses will have different variations on this, but in general, what you want to kind of envision is an oversized bathtub that's just been specially designed to kind of block out all the noises and distractions from the outside world. So the idea is that it's a sensory input controlled environment. These are classically called like float tanks or isolation tanks, but there is a much more like modern twist on them available now at some places like my business, East Coast Float Spa. So when you're floating, you are in only, it's relatively shallow, so it's just 10 inches of water, but that water is super saturated with typically somewhere between 800 to 1,200 pounds of like pharmaceutical or medical grade Epsom salt. So it's the highest quality Epsom salt. And that's what makes you literally float, again, kind of like you're in the Dead Sea. So you can't not float, even if you can't float in the ocean or anything like that. And it's a completely passive therapy because you are literally just floating. And the idea is that you turn off the lights, you turn off the sounds, you don't have any noise, you don't have any music, anything like that. And then the water's not as hot as a hot tub. It's basically the same temperature as your skin. So you kind of can't tell where your body ends and the water begins once you get acclimated. And in this sensory input controlled environment, that's part of the magic. You literally don't have any effects of gravity on your body as well. So your brain waves slow down, your mind and body get to this very deep level of like physiological relaxation that you really kind of can't get any other way. So that's my short way to try to describe floating.
But you did such a good job, and I've been to your place and I've gotten the opportunity to float, and there really is nothing like it. And I wasn't sure what to expect. I had heard before of float tanks, and a float tank and a float spa. What you've created is a little different. So in case someone knows the difference, knows what a float tank is, and thinks, "Oh my God, I get into this box, I pull shut this big door, and then I'm trapped in there." Some people might not want to do that, but your place is really cutting edge in that I think, or I've never seen anything like that in the Philadelphia area, where you actually kind of go into a room, you have a shower, and then you go into something that doesn't feel threatening. It kind of feels open. And then when you close that door, for me, it's like pure silence. It's like entering an oasis. And then, like you said, it for me too. I lay there and I float, and then as I'm floating, I can feel every single place on my body where I'm holding tension because I just want to relax. The water just wants to hold me. I can kind of feel what I'm doing in the water. So just could you go into just a little bit more of the benefits with being around all that salt and how it's set up and for the mind and the body?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big benefits is coming from the Epsom salt because it's such a high concentration of Epsom salt, even higher than the Dead Sea typically. Your Epsom salt is simply magnesium sulfate. So from a chemical perspective, that's what the compound Epsom salts are. And when you are floating, for all intents and purposes, you are absorbing this magnesium through your skin, which is the most transdermally is the most effective way to supplement magnesium. Most people typically, at least in the United States, are deficient in magnesium, and you literally couldn't eat enough spinach and almonds or anything like that to get the type of magnesium boost that you get from floating. You'd have to use, some type of transdermal magnesium oil or cream. So it's just a very effective way to get magnesium. Magnesium is sometimes referred to as the happy mineral because it literally does also kind of make you feel good, but it's not just the Epsom salt. That's kind of one part of the equation. The other two main aspects are the freedom from gravity, which I mentioned earlier. That not only has a impact on your body, but also on your mind. We don't really realize because it becomes all internalized and programmed.
Matt, I'm starting to realize. I'm sorry.
Yeah, as you get older, you can't deny it sometimes. Not you, but me, of course. But yeah, the actual like brain resources that we expend just to counteract walking and standing and living and counteracting gravity, those disappear, and then your like spine and back kind of elongate and decompress. You don't have any pressure points on you. So even if you think of like the most comfy, cozy bed, you still, when you're sleeping, you can feel the sheets under your butt or above you. You toss and turn. You have pressure points on your body. So all of that's eliminated. And then the sensory input controlled environment is the other big component in that it used to be referred to as like sensory deprivation, but that's not really even accurate because your senses aren't being deprived. If anything, it's more of a sensory enhancement. It definitely enhances interoception, the feeling and awareness of your body, and I think I mentioned before, but your brain waves slow down. So we usually are operating at what's called an alpha wavelength. It's faster, and you go down from alpha to beta to typically like the theta wave state, which is associated with like deep levels of meditation. So it's a very meditative experience. I sometimes phrase it as it's an environment that meditates you, as strange as that may sound, because when you don't have any sensory input coming in, all you have basically is your breath and your thoughts or lack thereof if you're quieting and getting to a calm center. So you get like literally a parasympathetic response in your body. It's a relaxation response. So I'm a relatively high-strung type of person, and I don't always, especially like before I ever floated, didn't realize how high-strung you actually are and how truly relaxed you can get. It's very similar to a massage, but the freedom from gravity, the freedom from the sensory input, kind of takes it to a whole new level.
And it really does. I like how you mentioned the alpha to the theta, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't even think about, because we're running around in alpha and like here's this beautiful planet and all this art and all these cool things, and when you're in alpha, if I remember correctly, your senses aren't stimulated. You're just kind of like almost living in your brain, and that's a sensation that's way different than when you go doot, 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 down to the theta, where they say then you're more creative, you're maybe more conscious of whatever makes the world spin. Is that right? Tell us a little bit what it's like to be in theta. Are you clear on? Can you give me more on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
So the way that I try to think about it is it's similar to, if not maybe like fully synonymous with, the flow state, if you're familiar with that type of concept. So it's almost like you're like slightly out of body to some degree as well, not in like a a scary sense or anything like that. It's just your perception and your thoughts to some degree are they're at a different perspective, because you don't feel your normal Mattness and your normal Diane-ness, because you kind of don't feel your body. So I didn't even mention this earlier, but I got into floating because I was in a bad car accident. So I've got like a metal rod in my leg and a plate in my hip. When I first floated, I didn't even realize the physical benefits. I went into it more from just like the calmness of mind, the meditative perspective to, try to help with my anxiety and all that. But after my first float, it was literally the first time in like 10 years that I didn't feel the chronic pain that I was used to feeling in my leg. And that's what got me to book another session for 2 days later, because it seemed too good to be true. And it's not, which is what's awesome. I see that all the time when we have folks come in and float here that have chronic pain issues. So it's fantastic from a more intractable chronic pain perspective. I know I veered away slightly from what your initial question was here around the meditative aspect, but it's all this stuff kind of works in synchronistically too, because it's very difficult to literally relax and have your mind slow down and get to a theta state if you're in pain, if you have stressors that are keeping you from being able to relax,
or if your pants are tight. Right, your pants are tight, or you're sitting on your butt and your butt hurts, it really gives you the freedom to kind of let that happen easier. Would you agree with that? I mean, that kind of is what I'm picking up from what you're putting down, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. And then to try to kind of like tie it back in with the theta state question that you're asking, I said it's like also like a flow state. So it's a very introspective environment. It's almost like you're turbocharging your meditation, or I've heard some people refer to it as meditation on steroids, if you want to sound more aggro about it. But because of the fact that you literally, when I put it this way, if I try to meditate at home, I've got my cats coming up to me, I feel my butt on the ground. I've with my bad leg, a lotus position or any variation just isn't even really comfortable. So it's just an extremely effective way to be able to meditate, both physically as well as then from like a lack of distraction perspective. You're in here like you're getting a massage. You don't have anything to worry about. So by being present through the experience, which can take practice. The first time you do it, it's very new, very unique. You're probably not going to be.
Let me just say too, being there and being bodiless. You're basically bodiless.
You're bodiless, and it's a unique thing. And for most people, they haven't floated since they were in the womb, unless you've truly been to the Dead Sea. There's not really another analogy really that works. So it is very unique. That's why we also usually, and it's not just us, because I work at a spa known as Spa, but like the common thing with floating in general is to commit to trying it more than once. Like, as weird it might sound, get your first one out of the way, because there is somewhat of a learning curve. If you've meditated before and you've done, body work or breath work, then it'll typically be a little bit easier to kind of sink into it. And almost everybody says amazing after their first float, but even more universally, people say like second float, whoa, that was even better, because your body knows what to expect and the novelty aspects are gone.
Right. Matt, I just want to thank you for taking the time to giving us a little overview on floating. And I also want to thank you for what you're doing for the community. I mean, it's just such a brave thing to open up a float spa. And I know you're doing really well over there. I love coming to your place. If anyone's ever in PA, you got to go to East Coast Floats and see Matt. Matt, do you have anything else that you want to end with or fill us in on? Or
I'll just mention that we opened up our second location in Princeton, New Jersey a year ago. So we're right outside of Princeton, between like Trenton and Princeton. So if you're in the like greater Philly or Jersey area, definitely feel free to reach out. If you're not in the area and you want to try floating, definitely Google it, like, float spa near me, float tank near me. You do want to just kind of consider, a lot of people do have concerns of claustrophobia. We've, designed our float rooms to be more modern and open, but that is somewhat of a rarity. There are certainly other businesses and facilities that do offer the more larger open float rooms, but many do have the more like old school traditional tanks and pods, right, where you have to close a lid over top of you. So, you can kind of shop around to see what's in your area and what type of like units they have, and consider even going in and getting like a free tour to check out the place. But it's definitely worth doing and trying it. Not once, but at least twice.
Oh yeah, at least twice. You gotta, I would even say 3 or 4 times. So it does. It takes a while to really just sink into it. Matt, it's so good to see you always. I really appreciate your time. I hope everybody enjoyed. And we'll be back in a couple days and have another live broadcast. So thank you very much, Matt. Take care, everybody.